give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to World of Tanks with Scout. Today we're going to be continuing our beginner series. This is the series that's for those of you who are new to World of Tanks, designed to show you some of the mid-tier tanks that don't often get reviewed, give you an idea of not only how to get to them, but how they'll perform when you do get them, which ones you may want to keep for a little stable of tier 5 tanks to help you get the credits to afford tier 6, 7, and 8 tanks. And also show you where these tanks will take you, because some of these may go places that you don't want to go. So today we're going to be taking a look at the tier 5 British light tank, the Crusader, give you an idea of its stats, how it stacks up, and where it's going to take you in the British tech trees. Now, as always, if you're already familiar with this information, if you're further along in World of Tanks, just click the annotation on the screen and it'll take you straight to the gameplay. Otherwise, stick with us and I'm going to give you a rundown of this tank and teach you everything you need to know about it. Now, we're going to start off in the tech tree. I want to give you an idea of how to get to this tank and where it's going to take you, and show you a few other things that are interesting about this tank. So here we are in the British tech tree, and here's where you're going to find the Crusader at tier 5. It's in the, well, it's a light tank line until you get to the Crusader, and then from there it's going to take you down into the British medium tank, starting at the Cromwell, and then moving on through the Comet, the Centurion 7.1, and the FE-4202. It's all medium tanks from here on out. So if you eventually want to drive British medium tanks, this is how you get to them, through this top line right here. And you'll also note that the Crusader occupies kind of an interesting spot here at tier 5. It's one of the few tier 5 light tanks that actually aren't that many. If you go to the American tech tree, you'll see that at tier 5 the Chaffee is the only American light tank. Going down here to the German line, you've got the Leopard. The VK1602 Leopard is the only German tier 5 light tank. And then, of course, if you go to the French line, the infamous ELC AMX is the French tier 5 light tank. Now, the Russians, the Chinese, and the Japanese, if you look, none of them have a tier 5 light tank. So there's actually not all that much competition for the Crusader, which is a good thing, because as you're going to see when we go into its stats, the Crusader, it doesn't really stack up all that well, because it really is a light tank with an identity crisis due to where it sits in this tech tree. Now let's take a look at the Crusader stats and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So back out in the garage, looking at the Crusader's stats, it has 450 hit points, which is the most of the tier 5 light tanks, beating the Chaffee and the Leopard by about 10 and 50 more than the ELC AMX. It weighs in at 20 tons, which is pretty porky for a tier 5 light tank. Only the Leopard is heavier, and it has a 410 horsepower engine, which is pretty terrible. It gives it a horsepower to ton ratio of 20 horsepower to ton roughly, and it has a top speed limit of only 44 kilometers an hour, which makes that situation even worse. What that means is that this is the most sluggish tier 5 light tank. It can't compare. Just to give you an idea, that's not much faster than a M4 Sherman. And then if you go down here to its hull traverse of 40 degrees per second, again, not that great. It does have a 46 degree per second turret traverse, but we're looking more for maneuverability out of a light tank for active scouting, and this tank just doesn't have it. Its armor is really nothing to speak of. 32 millimeters on the front, and then 27 on the sides and rear of the hull, and then 51 and 23 and 28 on the turret. And the turret, as you can see, the front where it has the most armor is flat, so that's not really going to bounce anything either. You will occasionally get freakish bounces off your slope, but mostly the only thing you're going to bounce is tier 3 tanks, and even then, that's if you're lucky. It has a 360 meter view range, again terrible, the worst of the tier 5 light tanks, and then its signal range at 550 meters is also terrible. So all in all, just does not stack up all that well against the other tier 5 light tanks. What it does have is a very punchy little gun. Let's take a look at this gun in a little bit more detail. So here is the quick-firing 6-pounder gun Mark V that is the top gun. You see it here that you can get on the Crusader. And as you can see, this is actually the highlight of the tank. It's a 57mm gun with a 27.27 round per minute rate of fire. It's got 110 millimeters of average penetration and 75 points of average damage, which means that this is the highest DPM tier 5 light tank currently in the game. It's just over 2,000 damage per minute. Unfortunately, it's not very accurate. 0.41 accuracy at 100 meters and a 2.3 second aim time is it's just not that great, because it's about the same aim time for medium tanks, and you really need it to be quicker than medium tanks if you're going to get a snapshot and hide. So while this is the best part of the tank, it's not really that great comparatively. It doesn't have anything that really makes it jump out other than the penetration and the DPM. You kind of need it to be more accurate, or you need it to aim quicker in order to give you an advantage as a light tank. And that's kind of, again, where this tank falls down, is even at strength, even the best thing about it isn't all that great. So what does all that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you. What all that means is that this is a tank, like I said earlier, that has a huge identity crisis. It's not fast enough. It's not maneuverable enough. It doesn't have a good enough view range to actively scout. It just cannot keep up with the Chaffee, with the ELC AMX, and with the Leopard. In an active scouting scenario, you know, typically your 2 scout tanks will run, one from each team, will run at each other, and then if you get spotted, you turn and you break contact and come a different way. But the Crusader just isn't fast enough to do that. It can't get away quick enough. And if it gets spotted, it tends to get destroyed right off the bat, because it just cannot get away unless it has cover very close to it. And even then, if it can pull back behind cover, it tends to be stuck because it's not fast enough to make that break to get away from the situation. It doesn't have the armor, it doesn't have the aim time, and it doesn't have the alpha damage to trade like a medium tank, even though it desperately wants to be one, because it has medium tank speed and maneuverability, and has medium tank penetration, but it doesn't have the hit points and the armor to go with it, so it can't really do that either. And what you're left with is a tank, to be honest with you, even now, I'm really not sure what you're meant to do with it. About the best thing that I can figure out to do with it, as you can see, as I've got it set up in my garage, is I put binos on it and a camouflage net, and I tried to passively scout with it, because just trying to trade like a medium tank, or play it as a very fragile medium tank, tends not to work all that well. You're depending on people ignoring you more than anything else, because you just cannot take a hit, especially if you're getting into a tier 6 game and you got like KV-85s and KV-2s shooting at you. And this is a tank that I can't recommend it to you, just because it doesn't really do anything well. It's too much, again, a tank with an identity crisis. And I recommend that you just go through this tank as quickly as you can, because it does take you to some much better tanks. The Cromwell, the Comet, the Centurion are all fantastic medium tanks. Unfortunately, this tank isn't. If you're interested in the British medium tank tree, just work your way through it and sell it. And let's get to some gameplay, and I'll show you some examples of what I'm talking about. So here we are in an encounter battle on Sand River, and I think this is going to show you exactly all of the things that we talked about in the garage. We're tiered fairly well. We got some tier 6s in this game, but a good mix of tier 5s, and there are some tier 4s as well. This is probably about average matchmaking that you're going to get in this tank. Now, one of the things that we didn't talk about when we were in the garage, some of the soft stats. This tank does have very good gun depression and elevation. It's actually got about 12 degrees of gun depression, as memory serves. Unfortunately, it does not have very good soft stats in terms of terrain resistance. It doesn't do well on soft or medium terrain, or even hard terrain comparatively. And you can see that here. Look how the tank struggled to accelerate, and it's doing about 32 kilometers per hour here. But now you see the gun depression coming into play. We had shots at that Stewart. Unfortunately, he pulled down. So we're going to take shots at this A20. Able to bounce a shot there. And like I said, you will bounce shots from tier 4 and tier 3 tanks from time to time, but don't bank on it. And that is an example of that right there. Now we're going to come over here and try to get some more shots at this Stewart again. Using our gun depression, playing on this ridge here. Be nice if we could take that scout out, but it doesn't look like we're going to get a shot at him. Now I want to come up here and try to get some shots into this KV-1 again, using the gun depression and the fact that he's peeking his turret over. Got an unlucky bounce there, but we did get smacked by a Hellcat, and that's what we were talking about. Even though your hit points are allegedly one of your strong suits, one of the best things about this tank, that one hit from that Hellcat took us to almost 50% of our health. And then here you see me doing what we talked about in the garage. I've got a camo net and my binos up. We are getting some spots from the tanks ahead of us as well, and you can see that no one can see us. We can sit back here and take pot shots all day long, and we are abusing that Hellcat up there on the ridge, because we have 110 millimeters of penetration, even though we only do 75 average damage. And you see our gun is more than good enough to go straight through the side, and even the front of that VK 3002M, if we can hit him. There's our Hellcat friend again. We'll put some more shots into him. 65, kind of a low roll. There's 75 in average damage. And then that Hellcat decides he doesn't want any more. There's the VK back again. Unlucky bounce there, drifted left and hit his upper glacis, which is angled very well against us. But these shots are going right into this side. And that is that .41 accuracy we talked about in the garage. Every once in a while you're going to get a shot that doesn't go the way you want it. That one did. You saw it went straight through the front of his turret. And again, just highlighting the excellent penetration on this gun. Now we don't have anyone left to shoot at up there on the hill, and I was hoping to get a spot off on the second Hellcat or the SU-100, but it doesn't look like we're gonna. I was gonna break contact here, but I see the KV-1S coming around. It doesn't look like anybody is in a position to deal with him, so unfortunately I think it falls to us to deal with that KV-1S. Trying to use the gun depression here. There we go. Excellent. 12 degrees of gun depression. Unfortunately here you see, despite the fact that we have excellent penetration, our low alpha damage works against us. And we just aren't able to inflict enough damage on that KV-1S to stop it. As he pulls in behind our ELC, we're going to go over here and try to save the ELC. Unfortunately we can't quite get there in time. Oh, and an unlucky bounce on the back of that KV-1S saves him. Seems to be ignoring us. We got to be careful because you have the KV-1s aiming at us and the KV-2 as well. Got to back up. And now you see exactly what I talked about in the garage. Now it's time to break contact. But look how slow this tank is. Look how slowly it turns, how slowly it picks up speed. And we're just not fast enough to get out of here the way that we need to. We're going to try to put the hill between us and those KV tanks, and then try to bang a left over here. We can't come up, and now we got a problem because we are not fast enough to get away from this ELC AMX. And that's it. That's all she wrote. 2 hits, both from 90 millimeters, and our tank is destroyed. And that is the problem that I was talking about with this tank, is you just can't slug it out, and you're not fast enough to scout and break contact. And unfortunately, this is a situation you're going to run into often with this tank. We did do alright for ourselves, 1,214 points of damage and a kill before we were finally taken out of the game. But I think this is a perfect example of the frustrations you're going to face as you try to work your way through the Crusader. That being said, you can still have good games in this tank. This is just kind of an example of what your average game is going to look like. So let's move on from here and take a look at some better games in the Crusader, because it is possible to do, and I do want to show you guys some of the upsides of this tank. So here we are on Fisherman's Bay, another pretty average match, about 5, 6 tier 6s, then some tier 5s, relatively few tier 4s unfortunately. And I'm thinking about going left. You can tell the way I'm looking right now. I want to go out to the western edge of the map and try to spot along the 1-2 lines.
Let's get this show on the road.
And here again, look at the slow acceleration, the slow pickup of the Crusader. Just doesn't have the engine power. And to be honest with you, the soft stats work against it as well. I mean, look at this. I got a toaster outrunning me as I go west. Look how far comparatively the ELC has made it. Again, just it's not as mobile as it needs to be for a light tank, but nonetheless, we managed to get our way up here. We finally pulled ahead of the toaster, so I got that going for us. And we're going to continue to push north and get up here into those trees. ELC is all the way up on the E line. Looks like he spotted the T-150 and the T-28. Nope, can't quite get a shot. This little rise is still in the way. So we'll go up to this clump of trees by the rock. There's a KV-85 there as well. We can actually penetrate him if we can get a shot. There you go. And doesn't look like we're going to get another one. Get our camo net and our binos up. And now you can see with the assistance of our binos, we're able to spot that KV-85 and the T-28. But without our binos, we would not have been able to spot that far. And that's why I definitely recommend that you take binos on this tank. Without binos, you don't have the view range to be a scout. You might be able to do it with coated optics, but I kind of doubt it. I think this tank desperately needs binos, considering the matches that it gets into, in order to spot effectively. Unluckily bounced on the side of the KV-85 twice. Third one goes over. 0.41 accuracy, that one drifted up into his turret, and as he was pulling back, that one hit his upper glacis at a wonky angle. 0.41 accuracy again, first shot misses the T-28, second one hits, and then he pulls back. The T-150 is down below us, but he's behind that rock so that he can't see us. So we can continue taking shots at this KV-85 knowing that he can't see us. He's not quite close enough to proxy spot us yet. Still trying to finish off this KV-85. Desperately would like to kill him. 0.41 accuracy. Cost us a kill on the T-28. The ELC is still keeping that T-150 occupied. Checking down there, making sure he doesn't come out. Oh, that's not good. Now there's no one left, so we're going to go ahead and move out because now there's nothing to occupy that T-150 and he's going to be coming around. And it looks like it is time to abandon this position and head further out to the east, try to defend the cap circle. Now, we may not be fast for a tier 5 light tank, but we're definitely faster than a T-150. So we're going to go ahead and get turned around and get out of here. There's an easy 8. That's not good. I would bet he's about to do a YOLO run into the cap circle. We're going to try to get down here and get into some trees and try to defend our cap circle. Get some trees in between us and the easy 8. See if we can line up some shots. Unfortunately, we got terrain and a pile of rocks there in the way. Get him on the other side of the rock. There's a good hit. And oh, no, look out! Oh, unfortunately I hit our artillery there, but I don't think I could have saved them anyway. But here you see the DPM is good enough to finish off this easy 8. 110 millimeters of penetration on a rapid reload, along with some assistance, allows us to finish off the easy 8 and kill that tier 6 medium tank. Even though he was shooting premium rounds at us. There's a lot of that going around in World of Tanks. I'm not sure what that's all about lately, people shooting premium rounds when they don't need to, but we'll abuse this Stewart a little bit. Unfortunately, we weren't far enough away from the trees for them to actually block us, line of sight we mean, so the AT-8 put a shot into us, but our artillery and the TOG, it looks like, finish off that AT-8. Now I want to get over to the east side of the cap and put some trees in between me and that T-150 because I know he's going to be coming east to try and cap here in a minute. I'd like to be in a position to spot him. T-150, all those Soviet heavy tanks have really terrible view range, so if I can get up into some trees, get my camouflage net, my binos up, I can abuse that. Our team's capping, probably a good call. So all we have to do is defend the cap and make sure that they don't get enough people on the cap that they could maybe pull a draw or maybe even a win if their Hellcat resets. Oh, there's the Hellcat. He's down here with us, so the only hope they have of a reset is the T-28. Nice shot into the Hellcat there. Had enough lead on it. Had to rush that one because he was getting down. And I could have taken a shot there at the T-150. He wouldn't have seen me through the trees, but I was concerned about the Hellcat spotting me. And I would really like to get the kill on this Hellcat if he'll just bring his turret up again. Oh, there we go. Oh, unfortunately the Tog kills him. And now we're going to see if we can get a few hits on this T-150 just because you see we're bouncing there. His side is angled really well to us. That shot, the previous one straightened him out as he was tracked, and so we were actually able to penetrate, as you can see there, the front of a T-150 if it's unangled. It just gives you an idea of the capabilities of the penetration on this gun. But other than that, I thought that was a pretty good game in the Crusader. Let's take a look at the results screen for this one and see how we did. So here's the results of our victory on Fisherman's Bay. I got a first class mastery badge out of that. Got the spotter ribbon, fire for effect, and the bruiser for doing at least 5 module critical hits during the game. Taking a look at the team score, I was able to inflict 899 points of damage and get 1 kill. Good enough for 816 points of experience, second on the team when you count all of our spotting damage. Not a bad game, really, considering that we're a Tier 5 light tank in a Tier 6 game. Looking at the detailed report, I fired 33 shots, 23 of which hit, and of those 17 penetrated, giving us 899 points of damage, 382 of which was from more than 300 meters. We received 4 hits, 3 of them penetrated, 1 did not, giving us a total of 40 points of damage blocked by armor. Unfortunately, I did have that shot that went into our artillery, so we had to pay for that. Only spotted 1 enemy vehicle, but we did damage 6, and we got credit for 1,000 points of spotting and assistance damage. So after repair and rearm, as long as a penalty for that bad shot, apologies to that artillery player, we were able to bring home 16,635 credits. So all in all, that's a fairly decent game, I feel, in the Crusader. Let's take a look at one more game before we wrap this up. So here we are on Live Oaks, once again, tiered fairly well. Only 3 Tier 6s on the enemy team, and a couple of Tier 4s to shoot at, but by and large it's a Tier 5 game. So obviously on Live Oaks we're not going to take our Crusader north into the town. We have absolutely no business being in there, and we are going to head out to the eastern side of the map, over by the railroad bridge, and try to spot that ridge right at the southern end of the G line, and see if we can spot the enemy medium tanks as they pull up, probably behind those trees. We'll go under the bridge, climb up this little hill here, and head to these bushes. Doesn't look like there's anybody here yet. So we'll just pull into these bushes here, get our binos and our camo net up, and wait for our KV-1 M3 Lee to catch up. We got a Chaffee off to our left, spotting the opposite side of the rail bridge, which is always nice when you got some eyes over there as well. And now we're just going to be patient. There's an M7, looks like he's under the bridge. That's why it's nice to have eyes on both sides of the bridge there. Not seeing anything yet. Don't really want to dive after that M7 just yet. And that's why. Knew there had to be somebody else over here. And not sure what this Panzer IV-H is doing other than giving us our flank and allowing himself to be torn apart. Got an unlucky bounce there. But leading these shots really well. And they were able to secure the kill on that Panzer IV. And now we're going to move up. Got a KV-1 in front of us. Go take some of the heat off of him. And oh, there's a Crusader pulling up at the last minute. That one hit our tracks. Didn't do any damage, but that one hit, and that hurt a little bit. And that one hit as well. We're going to get down here and get beneath his gun. Make sure he doesn't come after us. Alright, looks like he's gone off. Now we'll try to secure the kill on this M7. Took a hit there doing it, but we reload before he does. Able to secure our second kill on a Tier 5 medium tank. But as you can see, even though we only took 3 hits, it's cost us half of our health. And that's what I mean when I say it's too fragile. It does have a good amount of hit points for a tier 5 light tank, but as you can see, it desperately wants to be a medium tank. And it's just not. It doesn't have the armor, it doesn't have the hit points to do that. But you tend to have more success when you're in a good match like this, when you're tiered well, when you just play as a medium tank with good view range instead of playing as a light tank. Unbelievably got 2 bounces on that Stewart. That's probably the luckiest Stewart on Earth. He's looking for that Crusader is why I pulled into those trees and waited, and there's the Crusader on our right flank. We move on up because we were taking fire from the Crusader. It's fortunate that we did. That artillery round was meant for us, but it missed. You can get over here and try to finish this Crusader. The Stewart gets in the way, and unbelievably, we get our 3rd bounce on the side of a Stewart. Go down here and finish off this Crusader. Oh, gun depression, gun depression. Oh, he actually hit us. Damaged the turret, but able to secure our 3rd kill there. And it looks like somebody got that Stewart. The KV-1 got him. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get that kill. It didn't look like we were going to be able to get it anyway. 110 millimeters of penetration and bounced 3 times on the Stewart. World of Tanks. Get up here and shoot at this T-40. Looks like he's occupied with the KV-1. Here again, you see the DPM of the Crusader. Really one of its strongest points coming into play. We're able to secure that kill. Get down just in case the M41 is looking for us. Doesn't look like he is, so we're going to go ahead and push up with this KV-1. KV-1 has terrible view range. You know that from the review I did of the KV-1 in this same series. So we'll try and support him. Even from back here, we probably see further than he does. Looks like the artillery drowned himself. GG. And the Churchill just got swamped in the town, so that's it. Able to secure a victory with 4 kills and half of our hit points still remaining. A little bit less. Let's take a look at the results screen. So here's the results from our battle on Live Oaks. Again, a 1st class mastery badge. We got the Fighter's Ribbon for securing 4 or 5 enemy kills. Duelist Ribbon for killing 2 enemy tanks that damaged us. And Fire for Effect for doing more damage than our hit point total in the game. And as you can see, still a successful game, even though we played it a little differently. We didn't do quite so much spotting this time. We did more knife fighting, played it a little bit more like a medium tank. So you can do it either way and have some degree of success with this tank, just not a lot. Looking at the team score, I was able to get 599 points of damage and secure 4 kills, which good enough for 4th place on the team in terms of damage done, and 690 base experience is good enough for 3rd place on the team in terms of experience. So all in all, I don't feel that's such a bad game in the Crusader. Moving to the detailed report, fired 21 shots, got 14 hits. Of our 14 hits, 10 penetrated. 3 of those bounces on a Stewart. That still boggles my mind. For our total of 599 points of damage, 103 of which was from more than 300 meters. Took 5 hits, all of them penetrated, even though one of them was for no damage into our tracks. Spotted 3 enemy vehicles, damaged and destroyed 4. Got credit for 264 points. I believe that's all spotting damage on that Panzer IV-H. And of our 14,916 credits, after repair and rearm, able to bring home 12,064. So that's it for our review of the Crusader. The bottom line, I don't like it. It's too much of a tank with an identity crisis. It really needs to either get better view range, have some soft stats adjustments to assist its speed, or just make it into a medium tank, one or the other, because as it is now, it sits too much on the fence, and it just doesn't do either one well. So I don't recommend you shoot for this tank. By all means, go through it if you want to get to the Cromwell, the Comet, and the Centurions. It's not a terrible tank to play. It's not painful, but it's not fun to keep, and it just doesn't really do well. So that's it. I hope you found this useful. If not useful, at least entertaining. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.